So before we dive into the film, I think most people who are familiar with Lickety go to the blog and to the site, and I'm curious, how amazing has the response of people been and all of the wonderful stories you've heard over the last few years because of your boldness, you and the other girl?
Yeah. Um, it's been amazing. It was so crucial to me to be able to do it in the first place, to just be able to write out what was happening. And I loved to create the images. Almost every image there is something that I've created. I took the photo, I did this or that. And so, on the other girls' days when my sister was here and she was with mom, I could just go downstairs and like lose myself in the words and the images and that was a huge refresher for me. And then when people started to connect to it, that's what you hope happens, but you don't know. You're just out there like typing away. And that was even more important because when I started to get feedback, it was knowing that what I was talking about, that our journey was helping other people, other dementia households in their journey. And that was huge for me. And that's how I ended up finding the people that I went to for the filming. And they found me first. They found me through the blog, and then they became so important to me. These five people in particular were just with small things, sometimes they would send me an email on one of the blogs and it would just have me cracking up because they got it, and they understood where I was coming from, and they had had similar experiences, and that would make my day. On a really, when you have a bad caregiver day, you know the smallest things bring you up and help you turn it around, or at least help you not fall to pieces if you can't turn it around. So they were hugely important. They found me, and then I got into an RV and went to find them. So it was fantastic.
I've got to ask this thing started out as a little blog, but it is obviously so much more to so many people out there, and it is more accessible now than ever with the site, the YouTube, Vimeo. It's everywhere now. I'm curious, can you talk about the expansion of it and the voice now that it has, especially in the caregiver world, and getting stories and ideas and just wonderful nuggets of gold for people?
um well, what I think the blog did, with especially with my family, is very self-deprecating. Our humor is and always has been. We loved nothing more. My mother loved nothing more than to find something a little off about me and then just tease me about it, but with love. I mean, we always were like that. um I think when people read our journey, they were able to see that, hey, I could use a little more levity in our journey. I don't have to pretend like my dementia person is already dead. They're clearly still alive. Sure, this is really hard, but there's also some really funny stuff that's happening. It's just to be able, I don't know. It just felt good to me that the group who found the blog grew. They found it inspiring for their journey to take it and not do exactly what we were doing, but to take whatever they needed out of these stories and start telling their own stories and start rewriting their own version of what was going on in their household and what was going on with their dementia person and how they were responding. And yeah, so I I think that answers your question. It was very cool when it started to be, hey, I've got 200 followers. Hey, now I've got 300 followers. I mean, and we're not ginormous by any means. It was just me writing, but it
So
was it was amazing to have this community kind of come together through this, and the other caregivers are connecting and outside of me, and that was really wonderful.
So before we jumped on and hit record, you mentioned that you were nervous about your upcoming drive. I've got to ask a flashback to your first drive. What were your feelings, thoughts, emotions, and how has driving become a part of this story for you?
Okay, just a quick correction. I'm nervous about this today.
Yes, I know.
The drive doesn't make me nervous at all. um, I was never a big driver. I live in Portland, and you can pretty much buy a car and then, never use it for a decade because you can walk and bike everywhere. Um, but even before mom died, there was this idea that I wanted to get out. I wanted to just, once this is done, I just want to get in a car and drive away. And that's kind of how it got started. Because then I thought, well, actually, what I really want to do is I want to go meet these five people, and then I thought, well, if I'm going to do that and just sit and talk with them for a night and really, have our face to face, then why don't I hire a film crew and see if we can make it into a documentary? Um, and then I thought, well, why not get a cheap old busted down RV, plaster mom's face all over it, and drive around the country? So the drive was wonderful. My friend Beth came with me from California. She's a screenwriter, and just a great friend, same sense of humor. We had a blast. We took my dog, Mr. Bones. Barnaby Bones is with us through the trip, and it was beautiful. It was wonderful to see so much expanse of the US, a lot of which I've seen, but not in that manner. It was wonderful to leave everything behind here because I still live in mom's house. So, I had all this kind of trauma from getting rid of all of her and dad's things and, trying to figure all that out, and to just finally walk away for 3 weeks and go, I'm free. I'm in a huge space. I'm in Wyoming. The sky is ginormous. It's like I have my little house behind me and my dog and one of my best friends, and I'm going to meet people that I absolutely adore, and hopefully we'll still adore each other in person too.
So I'm originally from Texas. So Veronica's story, her family's story, hit me so hard and so wonderful. Can you share with us the experiences of those moments in Texas with that family? I think that's beautiful moments in the film, but for you personally.
Veronica was funny. She was probably the person I was the most nervous about, because she and I probably knew each other a little bit less than the other people. So I was like, oh, what if I get there and she doesn't like me? But we hit it off, and that was the last night of filming. So the film crew was leaving the next day. We were all a little bit frustrated with each other, and there was some sharp words from one person earlier in the afternoon, uh, and it was hot. It was like 105 that day. I think it was 98 when we started filming. But Veronica and I, for me, it's like everything else fell away. We had so much fun talking. I forgot the questions I was supposed to ask her. I had like a little sheet under me and I'd have to pull it out. I forgot that the crew was there. I don't know, maybe it was because it had been a kind of a harder day that we were for me, I was ready to relax and just have a blast. And we did. And I had a blast at every single person's house. But there was something about Veronica and that last night that was like, wow, I've done this. This will be my fifth time and I'm feeling good. And this chick digs me and I dig her and we're on. Do it.
I love it. We keep talking about your crew. Can you talk about the team you had with you and also about the logistics of kind of moving a crew across states like this? This must have been logistically kind of a nightmare on itself.
Well, okay, so I worked in post production. I worked on a lot of NBC shows as an assistant editor, so I kind of knew, and I'd worked on as a PA on an actual production when Grimm was filming here in Portland. So I kind of knew what production was about, and I knew more about what post was about. But what I really learned from those experiences, when you are absolutely out of your depth, hire somebody to help you. So we had a production coordinator, and he did all of him and the camera, our first camera guy, sorry, director of photography. They kind of planned out what they were going to need from us. They booked the hotels. The crew went separately. They went in a separate car because they wanted to have, distance from us. So we had the director of photography, we had a great sound guy, and then I suckered my boyfriend into coming as a second camera. so so two paid professionals and one who's still a little pissed. But it was just wonderful. They would, go ahead of us and get to a place early. They would do the formal interviews where people are sitting indoors during the day. And then, we'd show up in this behemoth of a RV, the Gloria, and park in the driveway and come in with our wine. And we usually would bring food because we didn't have a catering, set up. So we'd stop and get pizza on the way and come in. We just didn't want them to worry about anything. We wanted them to, the interviewees, the protagonists, we wanted them to be completely comfortable, not have to try and feed us, not have to do anything, just sit down and pour a glass of wine for them and let's talk smack.
Kitty, what's your go-to wine choice?
Pretty much anything under 20. And sometimes towards the end of the month, it's under 10.
Was there a day, now looking back on it, now that you've seen it, you said twice on a big screen, I'm curious, is there a day that sticks long in your memory, or holds true to you for this film? Or, I mean, I'm guessing the whole film, but is there a particular day that really will hold a long time for you?
Uh, I don't think there's a particular day. There was always a particular time of day. Um, Beth and I tried to only drive like 6 hours tops every day because it's kind of stressful driving an RV. It's a little bit different than a car. And by the end of that, 5.5 hours, and we're like a half hour to maybe an hour away from our destination, we would just get so giddy. And I laughed so hard every day because we would just make fun of each other. We would make fun of the road and what we were doing, and we were listening to murder podcasts the whole time. So we'd discuss all of that and then come up with these crazy theories. It was so good having her there, and for someone who needed to escape for a while, it was amazing. It was a complete and utter escape from my world the 5 years prior, and I'm super glad I did this. I'm super glad I was my mom's caregiver, my sister and I, but it's hard. And afterwards, I really needed that space to just be me, to just be kitty lickety, to just be out with a girlfriend, to just be unfettered, except having to stay on schedule for the film crew.
What's it like taking this film, well, for people to see it, for the reaction that people have been able to see it, or what are you hoping people gain? We're a couple of days away from a very big screening. Can you talk about what you hope people gain from witnessing this?
Yes, I want caregivers to feel seen and heard. I want them to feel inspired to share their stories. I want them to feel like community is really the way to get through this, to find your people. You're going to need them. It's been amazing. We haven't shown it in that many places, but we did the Care Colloquium in November, and that was our first, like, okay, I don't know anybody in this room here. We're showing this, and they stood up and applauded. You know, we got a standing ovation, and I was over running the equipment and, you know, closing down the laptop after the film ended and all this stuff. And this applause breaks out, and I look up and everybody's standing up, and I'm like, holy goodness, what is going on here? And it's like, oh, it's for the film. It's for the film. They did it for the film. So that's been amazing. The other thing I found is that in the screenings that we have done, if we have a Q&A afterwards, most people don't want to ask questions. What they want to do is say, oh my gosh, when Roseanne changed her shirt in the film, and then her mom was like, oh, thank goodness you're here. I don't know who that other person was. She's like, that happened to me. And then they'll tell their story that's very similar. And it's just like, yes, live out loud. Nothing is going to change if we stay in the shadows and do this small little sadness and hold it inside of ourselves. You know, embrace the joy that can come in this journey and in any end of life journey. You know, it's still life, and it still needs to be lived, and both your dementia person needs to live it, and so do you. So just be as open as possible. And, you know, for some people it's just so tragic that can't happen for them, and I understand that. But for others who just haven't thought of maybe a different perspective, maybe this will be like, ah, she's a little crazy, but I think I can take this bit, and this bit, and, you know, apply that to our journey and have a better time.
What's your favorite roadside stop or historical marker moment or find randomness along the road moment?
um, well, we rescued a dog in Alabama, so that was huge. And then he ended up coming with us for 3 days because it was Sunday and the sheriff didn't care, and there was no animal shelter open, and there was one vet that was like an emergency vet that we got him to, and nobody wanted him. So yeah, a sheriff pulled over and like, what are you ladies doing here? And he was right out of like central casting too, blonde, you know. We kept trying to get him to take the dog. He's like, well, I'm not taking the dog. Like, are you the cops? He's like, yeah, we don't take dogs. You know, so yeah, that was amazing. My sister and I did the trip again in the RV going to Virginia for the Care Colloquium. And we got to stop in Wyoming and see the Matthew Shepard bench. So that was really cool. But yeah, it was it was an adventure every single place. But probably picking up Uni on the road was the biggest was the biggest event. We found a shelter for him finally.
So, Katie, I've got to ask about April 27th and the 29th. I mean, what are your emotions, feelings, thoughts?
I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I'm like a little kid. Yeah, I'm really excited. Our at the Julian Dubuque Festival, we get 2 screenings. So our first one is April 27th, and that's at 3 p.m. and that is at the Phoenix Theaters. We're going to do a Q&A afterwards. I'm just I'm just thrilled to meet as many caregivers as possible, and I'm thrilled to meet people who aren't caregivers who I hope are see this film and then realize that the dementia journey is worth participating in. We've been calling memory cares, and, you know, everybody in the area that we can. I think we finally got to about 15 of them before I got overwhelmed with other stuff and I wasn't able to call more. But we've just been getting the word out. Trying to get people there because I really think this film will make them feel celebrated. And that's very important to me. I want them to feel celebrated. Dementia caregivers, the family caregiver isn't in very much of the media that's currently out there. We're usually a side note. And the disease and the people who have it are very important. But I feel like this is one of the first films that says, hey, we're just going to focus on the caregivers here. And you know, let them know we love them and we appreciate it. And it's hard.
Well, Kitty, my day job is I'm a medical courier, and I deliver to a lot of memory cares and a lot of different places and caregiver homes. And so, thank you for everything you've been doing, your journey, and for sharing it the way you have. It's been helpful, and yeah, it's been a wonderful chat. And I wish you the best. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Gadi.
Awesome.